What is up? I see Richard in the chat already. Man, the chat is getting lively. I am on location in Durham. I always forget. I always want to say I'm in Raleigh. We're yeah, Durham, which is apparently really close to Raleigh. I am very excited though. I would reschedule these, but dude, I've been so excited to finally chat with you. I was like, we're gonna make this work. So I'm hiding out in my hotel room. My Wi-Fi is pretty crispy, so I'm hoping we're good there. But I will let you introduce yourself, ladies and gentlemen. The man, the myth, the Laravel developer advocate, Josh Cirre.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name's Josh Cirre. First time caller, but long time listener, kind of thing. I've followed Jason for a long time. I can't even remember like who followed who first. Doesn't really matter. But
It
it's
doesn't.
it feels like it's been like close to. I knew I was ununemployed
That
when I
yes,
started
yeah.
like following you.
As was I. As
Yeah,
was I.
exactly. It's crazy turn of events how those kinds of things happen. But yes, I am a DevRel at Laravel team. So like the Laravel core team. If you don't know Laravel, it's a PHP, a full stack PHP framework, batteries included, full stack PHP framework, as well as just a company behind some great tools to host and monitor and ship applications with Laravel.
Ugh,
So yeah, I'm
yeah.
super excited to be here. But yeah, I'm glad that this worked out, and like the hotel room looks pretty good from your side. So like
Dude, I'll send you pictures of this
I've seen
place.
worse.
21C, we're staying at 21C. The first three floors are a museum. It's like an art gallery. So they have all these exhibits. It's wild. It used to be a bank in the 1930s. So there's a
Okay.
full vault downstairs in the
Ooh.
basement. And that was cool. I felt very like it honestly made me think of The Dark Knight, the bank robbery scene when we were down there. Like it was super
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, it's nice and the Wi-Fi is great. So I would have been really sad if it was bad and I couldn't get to talk to you. But I did get to hang out with somebody, a coworker of yours last week, Mister Joe Tannenbaum. Shout
Mr.
out to
Joe
him.
Tannenbaum.
Let's kind of let's rewind a little bit because we know everybody knows you're at Laravel now. You're that guy. You are Laravel. You even dyed your beard to red to go for it. And I love that about you. That's dedication. But
That was even before I even knew about
you
Laravel. So it was
knew
kind of like
you
destiny at
you
that
were
point, I guess.
intentional. You were intentional, and I love it. But let's start like from the beginning. I don't know anything about pre Laravel Josh. So why don't you rewind us a few decades in Josh's life? Where did you even get started with
Yeah.
software development?
Yeah, it's cool. We've kind of talked behind the scenes about like how a lot of both of our backgrounds kind of stem from kind of like the other side of the camera, or just
Yeah,
in terms of
yeah.
like creative work in general. And so like I guess like mine is kind of all over the place in terms of like where my software development journey kind of started. I guess I always knew I wanted to be involved in something creative, tech focused. Even
Mm,
like in high school, I was doing a lot of like graphic design. I was like designing for the longest time. I probably thought I was going to be a designer
hmm
because I was designing like PHP BB bulletin forums and like I don't know, like the big thing for me when I was in when I was in high school I was a pretty big gamer, not like huge, but there was like one or two games I really stuck with. One was called Tactics Arena Online, which was a
Ooh.
web-based platform, and the other one was Battlefield 2. And I was in so many forums. My parents probably didn't even know I was doing like at, like eighth grade. And I was like talking
Right.
to people who were probably like 30 or 40 at the time. But like I was designing like signatures for them, like in the forum, like the bottom of someone's
Oh
post.
yeah.
And so like I used that as kind of a way to, oh, like someone was like, hey, it'd be cool to like track stats, or it'd be cool to uh um like figure out how to use our Ventrilo server or something like that. You better, or like have it hosted somewhere. And so I learned a lot about the web at that time. Like I didn't have money, so it was like .tk domains,
Ooh.
PHP BB forums, and probably WordPress, but I didn't code. I was just like modifying things.
hmm
And so like if there was a band that I knew because I played a lot of music in high school. So I was like, if there's a band that I knew that I was like, hey, I could, you know, design you a website, but it was really me just like changing a couple of variables and a WordPress theme and figuring out how that actually works. And so I guess like a lot of developers' journeys, it probably starts with game development in that sense. Like I was like, I'm gonna make the next multiplayer first person shooter game. So I picked up a book of C in eighth grade, and I really learned that I don't know anything about coding. So I think I got through like the first chapter, and I just stopped after that. But yeah, in college, I thought I was gonna be in SNL, so that was my
Okay.
dream for the
Yeah. Oh,
longest
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I went like through the ranks of Second City in Chicago. For those who are like familiar with that, it's basically like the proving grounds of SNL. Like a
Oh,
lot of the
yeah.
greats, Steve Carell, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, they kind of like practiced, I guess, or like trained at Second City Improv Troupe, and
Hmm.
then eventually just found the right people to go to Saturday Night Live in New York. And so I did that for a couple of years, and then wasn't making any money as a server. So I was like, hey, I'm just going to go back to what I know, which is just figuring things out online. And um, I was in a lot of people's probably who are like either like watching or like just listening to like people's shoes of like, hey, I don't know where to start. And so I just started it was mostly like customer support jobs that I got in
Mm. Hmm.
and fully remote customer because I always knew I wanted to work remotely. It was just what my brain was configured at the
Hmm.
time. It wasn't like super popular, but I was following companies like Buffer who were like, "Hey, we're all remote," and I was like, "That's cool. That's cool. I want to do that." And so I would find whatever jobs I could find, and usually it was like customer support jobs, and then I would figure out what they needed in terms of like tooling or like, hey, like the development team can't build this for us. Like we're gonna have to figure out how to wire together these couple of spreadsheets. And so I would just start building it myself, like figuring out, okay, what's JavaScript, what's HTML, what's CSS. Um, yeah, and so like it seems like a long process to get there, but like I like to say I never actually was a full time developer, even like up until this point. I'm in DevRel now, so I never worked. Is DevRel Laravel called DevRel
Devreleville.
DevRel? That'd be pretty sweet. Lara
Larry
DevRel.
Devrel, yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that's funny. I love that. But yeah, I kind of have in even in tech, like apart from like my other weird background stuff, I kind of have a lot of background in support. Went to some sales engineering and solutions engineering roles, which were
Hmm.
I like to say are like if you like sales and you like DevRel stuff, you would be really good in solutions engineering. It's basically like
Hmm.
the honorary DevRel role. And a lot of companies who don't have DevRel that maybe aren't developer focused, it's a fantastic job for that because I basically got to learn a lot of development stuff at that time. But yeah, I was completely self-taught for my developer stuff. I didn't actually pick up PHP or Laravel until around like 3 years ago, maybe like 3.5 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Mostly just like JavaScript type stuff
Yeah.
until for the past like 6 years, I would say was when I did the most like just on my own on the side, like any side projects, like as a lot of people do. Like I had a couple of SaaS ideas, some that kind of took off and made a little bit of money, some that didn't take off, some that I wanted to take off when I was unemployed, and I was like, it just didn't work out. Um,
Would have been
but yeah,
helpful. Would have been
it would
helpful.
have been helpful. Yeah, that's a very high level overview, but hopefully that gives like a little insight of like
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, I have so many questions. The first one, and obviously, you're kind of your, I'll say, claim to fame because it was in your bio for a while. Your profile was the JavaScript to Laravel guy.
yep,
What were you using to teach yourself? Like, there's so
yeah.
many ways around self-taught. Like, what was the best solutions for you to that stuck
Mm.
with you? Because I think we've all also tried something that didn't work. We got to
Oh yeah.
figure out what works best. So what was it for you?
Yeah, that's something that I'm really like one passionate about, but also like really have like always kind of encourage people about is like that your path for learning is never going to look the same as someone else's.
Yeah.
And the faster I learn, like how I learn, there's a whole bunch of like different books on this. I can't remember the one specific one, but there's books on like figuring out how your learning style, not even
Mm.
like teaching you anything. It's mostly like figuring out how you learn. And I figured out quickly that I learn best by watching someone do it and then by doing something. So like I don't learn best with like with even with like full courses, I don't really learn best. I like people. I like watching people try something and
Hmm.
even like fail, and then like, okay, like what's their thought process of like figuring this out? Even books, I'm not like that's not my learning style specifically, or blogs or anything like that. It's just very much like I'm absorbing all this information and I'm going to try to put it into practice,
Yeah.
and fail at that point. And so how I got into learning JavaScript specifically was at the time was mostly just, hey, uh, like it came down to um, I wanted to build something. So like I live in Arizona,
Hmm.
and there's a bunch of different Arizona sports teams, and each Arizona sports team, like the Cardinals, the Diamondbacks, and the Suns. There used to be the Coyotes for hockey, but no longer. But they all have like free stuff they give away depending on like the scores of the game.
Okay.
So like if the Diamondbacks, like if there's the home run, there's like a free taco at Taco Bell or something like that. Um, but like keeping up with all of that like every single time, and also like remembering what they're giving away for free, I was just so annoyed I couldn't figure it out. So I learned how to build a a JavaScript thing that just like checked APIs, or like scraped the website and then checked scores, and just like could pull it up on my app, and I could be like, okay, like here's the last scores from like the last day, and then I figured out, I was like, okay, now I know how to call something with an API with JavaScript. And so I even tried like the boot camp type stuff.
Okay.
I did. It's kind of controversial now, but I was like the third or fourth cohort in for part time cohort in Lambda School, which is
Oh
now
wow.
Blooming Institute. So yeah, pretty controversial now, but
Yeah.
I made like a ton of connections there, and I didn't complete it because there's stuff going on in my personal life, and then just the school itself was having some troubles. Um, but I learned quickly like that kind of like not self paced wasn't necessarily for me either. Um, and I really just learned the best by having a problem that I had in my head and figuring out, okay, what's the next steps to solve that? And that's really where Laravel comes in too.
Yeah, nice. Tinkering your way through it
Yeah,
eventually.
exactly.
Yeah, and figuring out all those cogs to get the machine going. I love that. I think we're very similar in that sense. And shout out to 100 Devs, because one of Leon's first things he makes everybody do is do the Coursera course learning how to learn,
That's
which
awesome.
again, phenomenal. Such a great way to get your mind around like what is the best path for you. Yeah, that's great. You have quite an affinity for Taco Bell too, don't you?
I love Taco Bell. I actually had it yesterday.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
people is like the how I got, for those in the chat, how I got, I don't know, known for loving Taco Bell. I always loved Taco Bell, but it was when WordPress memes. Yeah, I was on www talking whiskey web and whatnot, talking about Taco Bell, because when the WordPress dude, I forget his name, Matt Mullenberg, was kind of in his heyday. I mean, he still technically kind of is right now, but
Oh yeah.
he made a post on X about, here's all my like open source contributions, or it was just like I think it was just donations. He was like, here's my donations for the past like 8 years, and like it was like absurd number of amounts. Of course, it was like, hey, I gave away $80,000 every year or whatever, and so I just like I was like, here's he's like, I'm gonna open source my donations for the past 8 years. And so I just memed it and I was like, I'm gonna open source the past 12 years of Taco Bell
That's what it
spending.
was. That's what it was. I
And
so remember that.
people thought I was like, of course I was joking in the sense of I didn't spend $30,000 in Taco Bell in some years, but I do love Taco Bell, and some of those numbers probably aren't too unrealistic.
I
But
do too. It is such a guilty pleasure. They have the new Crunchwrap stacker or like sliders. Did you try that
those are
yet?
those are so good.
So good.
Those are so usually like some of like the specialty items, they're hit and miss. Like I
Yeah.
like some of them, I don't
Yeah.
like some of them. This is the only one that I've gotten consistently since I tried it.
Well, they're immediately going to take it away now. You realize that. Shout out to
Yeah,
Taco Bell for like when I find something I love, just taking it away as fast as possible.
it's prepping you for real life. That's what they're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah. It had such a metaphor there. So let's kind of talk about what was going on in your personal life
Mm,
while you were teaching yourself. Like that's always important to kind of talk about is again like that balance. Like this is a process for a lot of us in here self-taught. And we've got
oh
to
yeah.
manage that time so effectively to really like make the best use of it. But, a lot of us have families and work. Work's always a big one. So like at that time while you were doing this, like what was going on for you?
Yeah. Yeah. First off, Taco Bell is the JavaScript of fast food. I will say that that's fair. That's
That's
fair.
hot. That is I like
That's
that. I
that's
like
a good one.
that.
I might tweet that if I have your
I
permission.
want that on a
That's
shirt.
that's awesome. But yeah, like that's such a true statement in the sense that like I always felt, and I still do to some extent. I always feel behind from a lot of people because so like the I I still was learning. I think I had just started Lambda school part time when I had first gotten married about like 6 years ago, and like I didn't have too much time to myself because my wife at the time was still a teaching assistant in the
Okay.
sense that she was finishing up her degree, so she still had to student teach, and so she wasn't getting paid any money. I had a very minimum paying job in the sense that I was working basically customer support for a tech company, which was nice. It was like a small SaaS company, but there wasn't too much up to go for me, and that was when I was like, hey, I had told myself I was going to learn to code for like the past 3, 4 years, like really code,
Hmm.
not just, hey, I can make this hover button, like open a dialogue modal or something like that. Like I was like, I want to be able to solve
Yeah.
problems when I code and be able to be employable with that. And so I was like, I'm not going to make any more excuses for myself. I had just gotten married, so I had like this drive in me. And I remember it was like the week that I signed up for um, Lambda school when I lost my job.
Mm.
And so I was like, okay, so now we have no income as a family, even though it was just me and my wife at the time. But now, how am I going to like actually learn to code while also like figuring out, am I gonna go back to working like fast food, or like do I just try to find something like that? And I basically just dove all in. It was one of those things where I was like, hey, I'm going to just try to learn as much as I can and just take odd jobs. So I had done some like camera work in the sense of like I had filmed some like videos, and so like I just kind of was like, hey, I will do what anyone will pay for me if it comes to like cameras, building websites, design,
Hmm.
whatever. I just kind of like told all the people that I knew. I posted on like some of my Facebook groups, and just was working kind of like odd jobs to get by as I was learning at night. And so it was like this kind of drive of how can I be most employable like right now.
Hmm.
And I eventually got like in the next 4 or 5 months, I got like a support engineering type role.
Okay.
Um, and so glorified basically like like finding bugs from people once they escalate them in support, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
basically, but it gave me the chance to, okay, I'm not a developer, I'm not being paid to be a developer, but now I'm in a code base where people have written a whole bunch of code that I don't have any clue what all of this does. And it was a C sharp code base at the time, C sharp and some JavaScript and some PHP.
Nice.
And I didn't touch the PHP part at that time, but I quickly learned of, okay, what are the things that I can like gather from this? Like, what can I learn on the side of like just as many conversations I could have with my coworkers of like, okay, like why is this the way it is? Like, there was a guy who I worked with. His name was Nick, credible developer, and I just like asked him so many
Yeah,
questions, even though
yeah.
it wasn't my job. It wasn't even his job to teach me, but I was like in the company Slack, like, hey, like, you know, when JavaScript does this, it should happen this way, right? And he's like, no, you're a complete idiot. Here's the way it should work. And so yeah, it was just a progression of even when I got a job and my wife was still student teaching, and we eventually, you know, had our first kid, and I was moving into like a sales engineering role at the time. It was more of like, what am I going to sacrifice myself?
Mm.
Um, I liked playing video games. I played like League of Legends a lot, and I loved it. I still do, but I learned quickly that I didn't have time to watch TV with my wife when we went to bed and then play video games and also like figure out how to improve my life and improve my development career. So like probably like uh maybe like like when my daughter was first born, about 4 years ago, I was
Mhm.
like, I'm not, I want to dedicate at least an hour a night to learning something. And so I gave up a lot of like sleep. I gave up a lot of like time with friends, um, to learn development and to like better myself there. I basically like probably did more work than I should have, even for the company that wasn't paying me to do that. But I was like, I want to, you know, I want to get a better job, or I want to like have them see me in a better light, or like see
Mhm.
like I can do more than just what I'm being paid to do. And so there was times I'd probably, you know, like do work um outside of my 40 hours a week
Yeah.
just so that I could find other things to do while I was working. And so it was a lot of putting in so much effort that I probably like, it doesn't make sense at the time, you know?
Yeah. Oh
When you're
yeah.
like doing it, you're like this is not logically the good thing to do.
Yeah,
But it
it's
pays
hard.
off.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I
Mm,
was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, going to work, coming home, doing family stuff. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'd still get up at 4 in the morning, work for like 3 hours on the computer those days. So like that was my time. Like, but we
yeah.
had to make those sacrifices. What
Like
Go ahead.
as a funny as a funny anecdote, like I remember, I think even before I got the Laravel job, or maybe even after, there was so many times when like I would jump into your stream and you'd be like, "What are you doing still up?" Because I would be like, "Yeah, I'm still up. I haven't gone to sleep yet."
That was when we used to interact the most. I think
Yeah,
was
when
because
I
you were
wasn't
still
sleeping.
up. I was just
Yeah,
getting up, but you had to make those sacrifices to be where you are now. Like what are maybe some things you learned about yourself from that time?
yeah. I think hopefully this doesn't alienate a bunch of people, because so I have two kids. I have and both of them, like I had both kids like at weird personal points. Like my first kid, I had just gotten a better job, and so like I was like, oh, like I'm living the dream now. But I also like it kind of like pushed me to learn more and like stay up
Hmm.
later, and like being like, okay, this is not my ceiling. And then my second kid I had, and then got immediately fired like the week after I had my second kid.
Mm,
Um, and both of those times, like I learned quickly that, one, I'm not as busy as I think I am.
mm,
Like regardless of like what day of like my life you ask, like, hey, like, are you busy? Like usually I would have been like, when I had no kids and I was like, and I was even when I was like single, I was like, yeah, I'm pretty busy. Like I got so much stuff going on. And then like if you ask me now, I'm like, I'm not really busy. I'm busy in the sense that I have my day pretty much packed out, but I'm not busy in the sense that I can't do something I need to do or want to do if it means moving something else around. And I think like that's one thing that I learned about myself was like I made excuses for myself a lot of like
Mm,
I can't put in the time to learn to code because I'm busy when really I was like binging a Netflix show and like or like playing video games. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I like doing that stuff, but it didn't fit with what I wanted
mm,
to do in my goals like for those
yeah,
next couple of years.
yeah.
So like being busy is one, and then also I think I would make excuses for myself of like how what my ceiling was or like how good I was. Like I would be like,
Mm,
hey, I can't do that. Or like before I even started making YouTube videos. So YouTube videos came um, right after I got uh, not right after, but I gotten let go from my job or fired from my job when my second kid came. So I was unemployed and I was like, I'm gonna go make YouTube videos that make no money and spend a bunch of time doing that. But I didn't do it for the longest time before that because I was like, yeah, like there's so many people better than me. There's so many people who have been building with these tools for a longer time than me who can explain it a lot better than I can. So there's really no point in me doing any of that. And really that procrastination came from me just uh like maybe being too lazy, yeah, but also I think just also me like making excuses for myself that I couldn't teach myself how to do that.
yeah, that makes sense. I sent you a message in the private chat, by the way.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
I want to, I kind of want to talk about that. Like maybe you touched on maybe like that, not knowing your ceiling or just not feeling like you're doing enough and all of the, maybe again, not using your time effectively, stuff like that.
Mm,
Like how how did you work through that? Because even now it's like I reflect on like, oh, I could have done more.
yeah.
I could have done more. Like I could have moved the needle more and been maybe like, how do you deal with that?
How can I move the needle more? That kind of question.
Yeah,
Like, or how
yeah,
do you deal with that question in my personal life?
yeah, yeah. Just
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much personal and work, and it's like, how
Yeah.
do you know that you are every
Moving forward.
day moving forward somehow, like
Yeah.
positively?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think like for me, it came down to the fact of like could I do something better now than I couldn't last year or
Yeah.
like a year ago or even just like 6 months ago. And really like a lot of that comes down to the fact of like I learned that there was so many things that I could do that I was like giving myself excuses for of like, okay, I really can't learn to do that, or no one's going to pay me money to do X, Y, and Z, or like there's no way I could get a job at the Laravel company because like I just started learning Laravel like 3 years ago. Like no one's going to actually pay me to do that, and so I think moving the needle forward more is like less of me realizing that there's you know there's a task that I've completed and being
Mm,
able to like check it off, and more of like me figuring out there's less things that I could be doing. They're more of like what the almost like a vibe. Like I don't remember who this was that said this, but I think it was Jason Fried at Basecamp, where like they don't have goals of like how they're working on something when they're designing something or like building on a new feature in a
mm,
product or anything. Instead, they're just using kind of vibes of saying, okay, how do we feel about this particular thing? And I would constantly when I knew that I was doing more and more things, I would look back at like notes that I made to myself, like, oh, when I'm 30 I want to do this,
hmm.
or like when I um when I have two kids, I want my life to be in this particular thing, and I would write these future notes, but then I would look at them and I would, like after time has passed, and I would think to myself, oh, this is really cool. I'm doing a lot more than I thought I was. So I think it's taking time to like appreciate where you have like improved. Like you're probably like this because you're a very creative person like myself, where it's like everything that I put out, like whether it be like a video, even like tweets, I like critique it so much in the sense
Oh
of like,
yeah.
hey, I like this. This is not. I could have done better here. I could have said this better. I could have changed my wording there. I could have made that edit like different, and and I critique it so much, but I rewatch every single video I make, and I
You
like
do.
say like, oh yeah,
Wow. Okay.
uh, multiple times, and I make notes to myself like, hey, here's where I could have done better. But I also have gotten into a better habit of saying, oh, that was like really good. Like I I I speak much better here than I used to a year ago, and like and seeing those improvements. And that's why I think it's so important to document yourself, whether that's making videos, blogging, even like Twitter posts or whatever that might be, because then you have this physical evidence of I even like in GitHub, like if you're pushing to a repo and you can be like, hey, like 3 years ago, this is the code that I wrote and this is the problem I was solving, and I thought this was really hard, but now I immediately see that and be like, oh yeah, I know how to solve that. Having that evidence of where you've come from and where you're going is huge.
Oh, I love that. I like too that when you do reflect on these things, you're not just focusing on the negative pieces. I think a lot of people have that tendency to kind of like beat themselves up and be super critical, but you're also allowing yourself praise. Like, hey, I did
Oh
speak
yeah,
better in this situation. I did do this. I think that's
yeah,
so important. Okay.
yeah.
So what let's kind of ramp up to Laravel. I would
Hmm.
love to know how that even ended up on your radar. Like, what were you
Yeah.
doing right before that? How did that all kind of come about? And was that something that was always again like it was nothing you touched plus 3+ years ago? So where
Yeah.
did was that something that you had wanted to do?
Hmm. Yeah. It's crazy. Because like I said, I was never a full developer in the sense that I was never paid full time to be
Yeah.
just a developer writing code. Uh, but through that, it also kind of gave me this opportunity to like experiment a lot, and even in my my personal learning time as well as like on the job time, like the most of the companies that I worked for as support or support engineer or as sales engineer or solutions engineer, almost all those companies, they had different code bases. It wasn't just like, hey, we have one product and this is like
Yeah.
just JavaScript. Like, and so I got to learn just from them of like asking questions like, okay, like, you know, like why is this when we, have and it was like complicated stuff of like, okay, here's this web app, but when you click on this particular modal, for some reason this link doesn't work the right way. And so like being able to dive into those things was important. But then it also gave me this time on the side, like at nights when I would do my learning. I had specific blocks of time
Mm.
blocked out every night from 10 p.m. to around like 2 a.m. Hey, I'm just going to learn something. And basically, for the longest time, I was like, hey, I'm going to learn how to build this app. And it's basically like an authenticated to-do list app
Mm.
where it's like, I want to log in, I want to save, and it was bookmarks. I want to save
Yeah.
links, bookmarks, and I want it to be specific to my user. And that was kind of like my baseline that I set of like I knew how to do this with almost any other JavaScript framework because I just would work at it, and then so that gave me the time to learn Firebase or Supabase or gave me the time to learn Clerk and all of these like
Mm-hmm.
services and stuff like that. And um, probably after like 2 or 3 years of just doing that on the side and feeling pretty confident in my JavaScript front end skills, but not really confident in how would I solve anything more complicated than just authentication without having to use a service. It got me building this application for my day job
Mm.
where I was a sales engineer And a lot of my sales engineer tasks were people would send what's called a security review, and a company wants to buy our product, and so they send like 200 questions of, are you SOC 2 compliant? Do you have do you store things in your database securely? Just questions that like are mostly like common sense, usually just like yes or no. Questions that we already had answered multiple times over, but I was still spending SOC 2 mentioned. I was still spending like 3 or 4 hours of my day like answering these questions. And usually it would just be like a find and replace from a previous questionnaire or from like a huge document that I had put
Hmm.
together or like our team had put together. And I was the only one sales engineer who was filling these out. And so I would just like, it was annoying me because I was like, here's all this time that I could be learning something else. Usually I would do these at night. So like I didn't have to focus on
Yeah.
the rest of, I could work on other stuff during the day. And I was annoyed because I didn't get to like learn to code. And so I started building it out in a Next.js app because that's what I knew for the most
Mm-hmm.
part.
Shout
And
out
I
to
got
Vercel, by the way.
shout out Marcel.
Yeah.
I I wanted to use AI to use our document, so like this huge 1,000 FAQ, to basically scan all of that
Hmm.
and then fill out, at least like do a first pass of the security review so that I could spend way less time. So I started with, okay, I'm just going to do a chat bot. And that was really easy to do within Next.js. I could have that as like a. I learned a lot about like document embeddings,
Mm.
where AI like takes all that and I could chunk it up and then
Yeah.
have it bring in the 5 documents, and I could ask a question. So I learned so much about AI during that time. But then I got to this sticking point of, okay, now instead of just asking one question, I want to ask 120 questions or
Mm.
200 questions from the security review. Well, one, it's probably going to run up against some or just be really expensive because that's a lot of information I'm sending and then
Yeah.
sending
Oh yeah.
back. I didn't have the money to do that. Um, I'm doing this for work, but like I was like, I want to make myself not have to work. So I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
um, and so I was like, okay, I'm just going to make these. Can I do this where I can like ask one question, get it back, and then send another response to the server, get it back? And I didn't know what that was called at the time. It's called like something like queues or a job, where I want
Yeah.
all these things happening, and I don't have to tell it to do each and every question. And slowly figured out, especially 3 years ago, there wasn't much options at the time in
Mm.
JavaScript, unless you were doing at least the JavaScript I knew, which was mostly just serverless type stuff. Next.js, a serverless function, Next.js is like 30 seconds of runtime. I think if you're paid, it's like 60 seconds or 120 seconds. That's still not enough time to complete probably like a 10-minute type job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what options did I have? Well, I was like, maybe I just learn a new framework. And so I took my authenticated bookmark to-do list app. I was like, I'm going to spend one night learning something new. And if I could, I'm just going to base it off of like what it felt like to write in it, but then also like how fast could I learn it based off of the documentation or
Mm.
AI or like whatever I was doing. So I built that bookmark app in basically like 4 different flavors of JavaScript, so like Next.js. I did the T3 stack. Um, I did Svelte kits. And I was kind of using those as a baseline. Here's what
Hmm.
I know for the most part, and here's how I would set this up, authentication, all that. And then I did a Rails app. I did an Elixir Phoenix app.
Oh,
I
wow.
did a Laravel app, and I did. There's probably one more. I did Blazor. I tried that out loud, but that's a
Okay.
C# version.
Yeah.
I did. There's probably one more. I tried almost everything
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that I knew like, okay, even if I don't choose these, I know exactly like what the basics of a framework is, how you would go about choosing authentication. And really, it came down to me liking the fact that Rails, um, Phoenix, and Laravel all had these problems that I would take almost a full day to set up within JavaScript world. Just had it out of the box
Yeah.
in terms of like authentication. terms of like database management and queues. Um, and really, I chose Laravel because this PHP syntax looked more similar to JavaScript than Rails than Ruby.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't like the percentage sign in Ruby for like the .erb.
Okay.
So that like threw me off. The dollar
Yeah.
sign didn't throw me off in PHP. Usually, like people when they're looking at PHP or Laravel, they're like, the dollar sign, I can't do that.
Can't do it.
Um, so yeah, I basically was like, okay, I this makes more sense to me. So I built my first app doing that like AI thing. I actually turned it into a SaaS, which has been my most profitable SaaS. So the first app I ever built in Laravel is probably like my most profitable SaaS to
Love
this day.
that. Love that.
And then yeah, I was like, okay, it's similar to like that thing that I told myself of like, if I'm going to teach myself to learn to code, I'm actually going to do it for real.
Mm-hmm.
It was something that I told myself with Laravel, like after that first application, 3 years ago. It was like, okay, I'm not just going to choose the next stack that comes to my mind. Like maybe I could still like explore it and learn it. But anytime I have a problem, I'm just going to stick with Laravel and I'm going to figure out,
Mm.
okay, how would I solve this with this particular tool? Where do the limitations come from? Where do everything else come into play? And that's really what made me stick with it. Was I kind of told myself I'm not I want this to be the next step in my career.
And there it is. How? Because you just sort of touched on it right there. Like, how do you combat that shiny object syndrome?
Yeah.
That is so hard and so prevalent in our industry. I mean, there is new frameworks every other day. It's overwhelming. Or new
Yeah.
tools, not even necessarily new frameworks, just all the things.
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
You make a YouTube channel and then you give yourself the ability to play around with stuff and call it good. No, but
Yeah,
seriously,
everybody's dream.
that's probably one of the main reasons why I like started creating content was like all of like I slowly realized like all of this like stuff that I'm learning, like one, I'm just kind of doing it in isolation. So like there's the value of being able to learn with other people, to learn out
Sure.
loud.
Yeah.
But two, it was one of those things where like usually when I would go into learn like that new shiny object thing, I didn't have a specific goal in mind
Sure.
of okay, why am I doing this? Am I doing this to like use it to build an application, or am I doing this just to be like, okay, I can say that I know the tan stack now and like know like how different parts of that work. And so now I'm grateful that like at my job at least like it's cool because then I can be like, okay, tan stack for example. Well, maybe there's something there that like is beneficial for people in Laravel, or maybe there's just something there that people who are looking to use it with Laravel might be able to be used, or um, even like within like content, like blog or video or podcast or whatever it might have. You might be like, hey, here's the things that I really liked as a someone who only knows this particular flavor in JavaScript. I tried this out, and here's the things that I took away from it. And I think again documenting all of that, but then also going into the goal of hey, it's okay to play around with that. I think people who don't play around, if you had two scales, and there was one of them was people who every single day they try something new, and the other side was they stick with the same thing and never look back. They're still on jQuery
Mm.
and they're building and shipping. Um, like there's benefits and disadvantages to both, but in terms of like what is making you more employable, it's probably going to be the person who plays around and learns something new, and what's making you and what gives you the tools to then learn something new, because even the stack of your choice, it's going to change. Like Laravel's even just in like the last 3 years has changed pretty drastically, not just in the framework itself, but the tools around it. And I think a lot of like I don't claim to know more than people who have been building in this tool for 7, 10 plus years. but I feel like I've given myself an advantage to be able to talk about some
Mm,
of the things that are within Laravel because anytime there's like a new update or anytime there's a new like blog post or Twitter, I just like explore and I figure out, okay, what is this good for? And now I give myself like this credit or like this almost authority to talk about it because I've done the work for it. So I think people with shiny object symptoms like find a way to give yourself authority to make it so it's not just waste of time.
I love that. That is really great point. So, and again, we see it so much in our industry. I feel like we had to kind of touch on it. What and you also
Yeah.
did read the Laravel docs cover to cover, so I feel like you gave yourself the authority by doing that. That was a wild stream, by the way.
That was a fun time. I remember like when I first joined the Laravel team, I was on a call with Taylor Otwell, the creator of Laravel, and I was telling him like I was the kind of like the second content person at Laravel at the time, and now we have Chris Seb who helps lead us and gives a little more insight. But I was telling him I was like, okay, over this holiday weekend, what would you think of like doing like a Mr. Beast style? Like I just read that he's like that could work. He just kind of like kind of gave a oh yeah that would be pretty cool. And yeah, I've never talked for that long, like 9 hours or whatever it was straight. I've never talked that long.
Yeah, that was intense. I remember being there at the beginning and then coming back and seeing somewhere around
You
the
woke up.
end. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was crazy. Oh, you just said something. We'll go to this question. Chris in the chat here is asking what got you into DevRel, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious about that too, because again, you touched on it a few times where you've never been in a developer role. You've always
Yeah.
been adjacent somewhere, but I think that there's actually benefit to that, which you also had
Hmm.
said. You get to dabble and play and build, but it's not like in the code base all day every day. So what was the decision about the DevRel role?
Yeah. Um, I would it's crazy. Life is crazy, but it's crazy just the goals or like kind of things like I had written down at some point in time where I was like, hey, this is what I would like to do. And I remember just out of college, I was like I was doing the whole SNL thing, or like I was trying to do the whole SNL thing, and
Hmm.
I had written down, here's what I would like to do at some point in my life, is be able to have a tech job, a developer job, doing something. And I remember reading a whole bunch of different blog posts, and one of them, or a bunch of them, was by this guy named Jason Langsdorf. Um, and I think he was still
Shout
at
out to Jason Langsdorff, by the
Jason
way.
Langsdorf.
Yeah, coding with Jason, so good.
Coding with Jason. Oh, and I think he was at Gatsby still at the time, and he was talking about, and one of the first few bloggers and content creators about this developer advocate or DevRel type role. And at the time, it was still, I mean, it's still technically pretty new today, but at the time, it was really new. I think like I don't even know if his title was technically still developer advocate. He'd probably be able to give more insight on that. But I think him, um, the Cassie codes,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, the very few people were talking. I think David East at Firebase was one of them as well. Very few people were talking about this, and I remember reading. I'd have to pull up the blog of who it was, but I remember reading someone who was in the theater world, and then they became a developer, and they kind of created this or found or stumbled into this DevRel type role. And I read that when I was just I was like, okay, I'm going to stop doing this whole SNL thing. I'm like, that'd be a perfect job for me. Like it's tech. I
Mm.
get to build fun things and I get to like, whether it's make videos or speak or whatever that particular function of DevRel does for that particular company. And so I kind of put it in my goals list of
Mm.
like, um, maybe I'll do, um, I did say theater. Like
Yeah.
I did a lot of musical theater type stuff before. Um, and I made it my goal of like, okay, if I'm not like owning a company by this amount of time, or working for myself, I want to be in a developer advocate or DevRel role.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, putting it out there, like this is what I want to work towards. And so that kind of gave me that insight in a lot of ways of like whether I was a support engineer or just in customer support or a solutions engineer, I would kind of make each one of those roles. I would kind of just say, hey, I'm willing to do extra work for you as a company if I could be doing these particular tasks that I thought fit were for DevRel. So in every single company I worked for, whether it was customer support, solutions engineering, sales engineering, I would make my own job almost of saying, okay, I'm doing these 40 hours a week for you, but on my own time, I want to make a video about, okay, hey, we get this question asked a lot in customer support. So here's how to do one of my first videos that I did. It was really terrible. Um, but it was basically like, here's how to use JavaScript uh, I think it was like, you could customize the modal of a pop-up for a form. I worked for a
Mm-hmm.
form company. You could use custom JavaScript to customize how that modal changes. So I kind of like made this video teaching people how to do it. And so I gave myself almost again of like I kind of gave myself permission to basically, in my mind, I'm like, I am DevRel for this company. They don't have any DevRel, but I am a developer advocate. I'm going to teach people how to code using our tool in a lot of ways. And so I guess how I came upon DevRel itself and now being at Laravel was I kind of like if it sounds weird to say it, but I kind of like just pretended I was one for this whole
Yeah.
time. I whatever Even when I was unemployed, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to make videos and pretend that this is my job. This is what I get paid to do. Um, and so yeah, I guess like to simply answer your question, Chris, is like I knew I had wanted to do it for the longest time, and so I found ways, even in jobs that didn't even weren't even similar to DevRel. I found ways to make myself a DevRel.
Yeah. You willed it. You willed it,
Yeah,
man.
willed it
I
into
love that.
existence.
I love that. How important, obviously you blew some minds when you were switching these cameras here. Like, this is going boom. He's like, what? Oh, and a little tracking shot.
No
It's
tracking shot.
panning.
I
Love
can look
that.
at you. This is like the cinematic shot where like it's still moving and it's moving back kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I love this setup. How important is it to you to have these creative outlets in your day to day role?
Yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, super important. I think it's kind of like even again, even when I was in customer support, it was one of those things where I wasn't even making videos, but I was like, okay, here's the things that I think are really just really cool to me or cool to learn. Um, Before I started making videos, I knew nothing about lighting. Like I was on the I was on this side of the camera for
Yeah,
the
oh yeah,
longest time.
yeah.
But like as a talent or as an actor, no one knows about lighting or cameras or sound, audio. Like I knew a little bit more with audio stuff because I did music and like musician type stuff, and so I knew what was a good microphone, how do you get it into the computer, like how do you record all of that. But all of those things were like, okay, if I want to make a good video for this company, I'm going to invest my own money. I'm going to again, the whole premise, the whole like theme of this, I guess, could be doing things that don't make logical sense in order to make something happen in the future. So I was spending time when I like wasn't getting paid for it at work outside of my 9 to 5, and also spending money to buy stuff to give more to work than I'm getting paid for so that I could level myself up. And so I quickly learned of like, okay, what's lighting? What's the key like? Why does it need to be soft? I quickly learned like, okay, how do you have, multiple cameras at one time? How do you do all the things that I want to do? And a lot of that benefit. Like I'll actually give credit to like the church that I serve at on the weekends,
Mm-hmm.
because that was a good creative outlet too. Like there's once COVID happened, I was like, okay, we need to stream, we need to have a camera, we need to make audio look really good. And so I was kind of like thrown in the deep end. I'm like, okay, now I get to really research. And if there's one thing that really like pushes me, it's hey, there's this particular problem that we need to solve, and I don't even know where to begin. And I get this like excitement of like, okay, well, I'm gonna figure this freaking thing out, kind of thing. Like I'm gonna like figure out, I don't know like how a bokeh effect works in a camera, but I'm gonna figure this out. And so like so many YouTube videos watched,
Oh yeah.
so many like blog posts read, and then just trying things out. I probably like thankfully like I think like I've gotten a return on my investment, but like investing time, money, and like effort, especially if you think about putting it into companies that don't care that much about you, and in that sense of like they're not going to give that same kind of effort to you. But for me, it was not about them specifically. It was about
Yeah.
me wanting to be where I wanted to be.
Yeah. I love depth of field, but Boca is like, now there it is. There's the wink. Got him. There, just for you, Roxy. Yeah, I love
Forgot how
that.
to wink for a second. Yeah, I was like,
What you kind of mentioned it there. It's like I think sometimes people forget that this can be the long game.
mm,
Like time and investing time and work and progress doesn't always happen overnight.
oh
Like
yeah,
you have to take those steps. Wow, it's been an hour. We're gonna have to do a part two of this because, dude,
we're
I
gonna
don't
have
even
to.
think I asked you half the questions I thought of.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I'm having so much fun.
I know, dude. Oh, this is great. All right. Well, I have two questions. The last one I
Okay.
always ask at the end, but what's the message you want people to
Mm,
get from your content? Like the way you shoot it, the
yeah.
way you approach it. What is that theme or the message that you're trying to deliver?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think a lot of it comes down to this phrase that I, don't- I didn't mean it to be like a catchphrase or something that I like ended every video with, but it just kind of happened, and maybe that's, I think it naturally just came out of like what I feel and what I a lot of my own personal beliefs as well, but then also just from my own story of just like how so many people, including my wife and kids, have been like supporting me and giving me the outlet to do this. But all of it comes down to being able to keep creating. And so that's usually like my message that I want to try to portray is like I think innately as people we are creative individuals, whether you see it as that or not. I think you are in more ways than you might see yourself. And I think with that, we have this goal then as individuals, whether I think especially if you're you're watching this or you're listening to this, like you probably want to grow or be better. And I think that comes to, okay, well then how can you create more consistently, and how can you have this goal of just being able to find ways to make something out of nothing and make it happen, because really that's what leveling yourself up is. It's making something out of nothing. You didn't have the skills to do what your current job is at some point in time, so you found ways to make that happen. So how can you find ways to consistently grow upon that? And like for me and myself, like i I didn't know again like what all this light. I change everything up here like once a day just because like I I have this restless syndrome of like, okay, like this camera could be like slightly duller, like it has too much of an orange shade. Like I see all those little things mostly because I've learned what I like to see and learned what I like to do and learned what I like, how I like to grow and how I like to do X, Y, or Z. And I think being able to consistently do something or find ways to consistently do something not only gives you that drive, but then it also gives you a playground to say, hey, I whether that's blogging, I don't write that well. I should write better or should write more. And that's something I want to work on. Or it's making videos, or maybe even it's just coding and like keeping, a GitHub blog or, as yourself, but I think
Yeah.
it's consistently creating.
I love that. D- okay, now I have a quick question, then my final question. Do you think it's important for everybody to try everything?
Mm,
Like your video content, like that's your niche.
yeah.
I don't think that everybody does have to do everything. Now I'm
Oh
kind
yeah.
of curious because you just said you don't write enough. You wish you could get better, but do you need to?
Hmm.
Do you
That's a
need
good.
to do that?
It's a good question. I think it comes down to again your goals.
Yeah.
So like my why I said I need to write better is because I don't want video to be my only messaging. I
Mm,
want to like I want to write a book and I want to kind of like have like a lot of the stuff I want to say when it comes to very much of like around these kind of topics.
yeah.
I don't think translates really well in a video. I think it does really well in written form, and
Mm,
I don't want that to be neglected in in how I say things or what I'm being able to portray. And so when it comes down to okay, what kind of medium works best for you, the listener, the
yeah.
watcher, I think it's well, one, what is something that, you know, if someone were to come up to you like at a party or like even just like a text conversation, Discord channel, whatever that might be, and be like they asked about a specific topic and the one that you would like light up and start talking about it for hours, like that's the topic that you need to like start creating
Mm,
content about. I don't care if like people there's like thousands of other videos about it or thousands of other blogs, like your voice is still going to be unique because it's your perspective of how you came
yeah.
to be. Um, and like I think like knowing that, I think there's a natural draw to where then okay, like what is the medium for? And I would say like probably try them all out, but there's going to be one that just like naturally
Yeah.
feels
Yeah.
easier for you. And it could be some weird, not weird, but it could be some like crazy cool thing like um Sam Rose. He writes these blog posts. Shout out to Sam Rose. He writes these blog posts that have like these animations on them that he like developed
Ooh.
himself, and it's so cool. Like I was like, I could never do that, or it'd take me years to figure out how to do
Yeah.
something like that. But there's so many cool ways to portray something. So figure out how it works best for you. I think.
Coming soon, the animated Josh Cirre blog, Cirre in space, the next blog.
Yes.
Okay, wow. And again, I have a ton of questions. We have to figure out a part two, but we'll talk about that later. I'll text you after this. What does success look like to you?
Mm, that's a good question. I think for me, um, so like while I was still unemployed, I did this challenge to myself as well as like to others, and I did this on my birthday, and I kind of like was like, hey, I'm putting myself out there even more and giving people the chance to like invest into me in the sense that I was like, I kind of just put a stripe link out. I was like, hey, if people want to pay me just to say like, hey, I like supporting your stuff, like do that. It was really awkward for me. I was
Yeah.
like, that's not who I am. Um, but the thing that I learned from that, and one of the things I kind of like wrote down was my goal is I truly like helping people and teaching people. And my goal in life is to not have to worry about what I'm going to do to make money to provide for my family and be able to help people without having to worry about that. And so it seems like a very non-arbitrary goal because there's no like, oh, like I'm going to make X amount of dollars. Like that might that whole goal might be fulfilled when I'm a billionaire, or it might be fulfilled when I have no money in my bank account. But that's what I'm like constantly keeping on the front of my mind is like, like if I can take a step forward towards that every single day, then like maybe maybe I've done something good.
I love that. I always ask that question at the end because everybody's answers are different and it's unique. And again, it's the message being like, we are all different. But at the end of
Oh
the
yeah,
day, like, we all have kind of those same goals. Like we all just want to be happy. We want to
oh
make
yeah,
sure the people around us are happy. We just all
yeah.
have different paths there. So,
Like
holy
my
crap.
my dream real quick, like my dream like retirement thing, which would be so cool, is like one, I'd love to spend more time with my family and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
two, like being able to, I would love to teach like um, high schoolers like how to code or like create videos or content. That'd be so cool, just for free.
Oh,
Just like, hey, let's build something like really cool. And if I was like doing that all day, I would be so happy.
that sounds like a dream job, man.
Oh yeah,
Maybe someday you will. I feel like you're
um,
already on your way there. The steps
yeah.
are happening, man. You
The
will
steps are
make it
happening.
happen.
It's crazy.
What do you have coming out
Yeah,
that
not
people
middle
can
school.
see next? Yeah, not middle schoolers though. You speaking at something, you've got anything coming out with Laravel, new videos? Where can people check out your content too? I'll get your links here.
Yeah. You can check me out on YouTube or Twitter. Those are probably like my two most actives. If you go to cir.re, I snagged that domain. Pretty sick. You can
Nice.
find all of my stuff. So cir.re/YT for YouTube is the direct one. But yeah, I'm gonna be at the Epic Web Conf in Salt Lake City next week, which
Whoa.
will be fun. I'm gonna be speaking there and on a topic really similar to this. Um, that's called learning driven development. It's going to be a short little lightning talk, but I'm super excited to pumped to see you there. Awesome, see you there. Um, and then also like coming out from the Laravel team, I'm super excited because very shortly we might be able to do some brainstorming uh, live streams on this too. But very shortly we're going to be revamping um, our boot camp, which is like
Oh.
the hey, here's building your first Laravel app in Laravel, and so that's something I've been passionate about for a long time, of course. And so yeah, I'm super excited for those videos.
We still need to figure out some sort of a Torque Laravel collab. We've been talking about
Oh
it
yeah,
for a very long time, and that's happening. I would love to get some sort of a class to walk some of these developers through some of the amazing features that, especially, have just come out with the new release.
oh yeah, that'd be so awesome.
Shout out to Cloud. All right, well, I will let you go. This has been fantastic. We will definitely have a part two.
Yes, we
Go
need to.
go make some more amazing content. And
We'll have a part two. Well, it'll be sponsored by Taco Bell, and
oh my God, can we just? That'll be all it's about. It's going to be about camera angles and crunch wraps. That could be, dude. Can that be our
ooh,
podcast?
camera angles. I'm down for that. And then I can write off ordering crunch wraps every single week.
Oh, let's
Yes,
go. Oh my God, this sounds amazing. All
like
right, there you go. You've got to like do an overhead or like a punch in and get the slow motion, maybe some
yeah,
like
like
strobes and
overhead shot.
smoke.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh my God,
I
Taco
have
Bell sponsor.
I still have one camera input. I don't have the camera set up. I still have one input
It's
available. So
coming.
we can do
It's
over.
the Crunch Wrap cam. It's the Crunch Wrap cam.
People say ASMR like for me, so like maybe I'll do like Taco Bell ASMR. That's probably a thing.
Oh
People
my
people want
God.
that.
I'll be honest, I don't, but I'd watch it. I'd watch it at least once. I'd watch it at least once. All right, everybody in the chat, thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you happen to be in Durham, I am at All Things Open AI here. I'm going to go head back down to the venue as soon as we get done here. Otherwise, you will see me next Monday. I actually have Rachel Neighbors. They're here. I walked
Oh,
by
nice.
them. Yeah, I walked by them at the conference. I was like, wait a second. So I have to touch base with them when I see them again. But anyway, everybody, remember, it is nice to be important. It's more important to be nice. Go have a green beer if that's your thing. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Josh. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Go get some Taco Bell and maybe a Baja
Mm,
Blast.
there, that's green.
There you go. There you go. All right. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See ya.